Hi, good evening, home language. It is the 9th of September and it's just after 4 o'clock from a beautiful balmy Port Elizabeth. It's 19 degrees. I've got a t-shirt on. So we perhaps out of a cold spell for a little while. We've come through a nice rainy weekend with lots of wind last week. So it's really been precious week this week so far. So I hope you're all staying warm, safe and well. Let's get the show on the road in week 6. I'm just going to share my screen with you. Here we go. Okay, so yes, we are on week 6, applying a process approach to writing rather than a product approach. So there you've got a little image of someone thinking about what they're doing, what they're trying to write. And the whole struggle in writing is to get what's in here in our head to that piece of paper. Often it's very easy to think we know what we're going to write about, but when we actually get down to it, it is actually quite a process as well. So week 6, we're going to really focus on a process approach to writing, which is really the topic of your assignment 2. So a lot of what I'm going to say today has relevance for the way you're going to plan that assignment. But before we get started, let's look at our usual spreadsheet. And as you can see, I'm quite happy. The tallies for week 4 show that 18 of the 20 active students actually submitted the online tracking, and the SB's 30 of the 32. So I'm not too sure why there was a bit of a gap there. This week so far, from last week, there's 7 of you from the FETs that still have to complete. They have completed, sorry, and 15, half of you from the SBs. I'm sure you've got until Friday night, the 11th of September, to finish at midnight. So I'm sure that number will improve for next week. And as you can see, I'm very thrilled with the assignments, assignment 1s that you got submitted. So there's no space here for this grumpy face. So let's hope that smiley face stays up there. So we're on Unit 2, we passed the grammar teaching sections, and we're looking at writing for this for the next 4 weeks. And last week we looked at a learning approach, right to learn, whereas this week we're looking at more at the process approach to writing. I'm not too sure if you've come across this before in your studies or in the classroom, or as you have learned and practiced in the classroom, but we're going to very, very much focus on this aspect of writing in the composing process. There we go. There's the whole cycle that we're going to go through from the pre-writing right to the submission stage. And it's from Ferreira in chapter 11, page 152, looks at the process and the product approaches. And then on page 157 to 160, it goes through all the actual stages as well, what we're going to cover tonight. And that's the rest. Next week, we'll look at the genre and the integrated approaches to writing. So assignment 2, due on the 25th of September. I've just started marking the home language assignments, and I've only got through 3 of the FETs. It takes time, and when I'm busy preparing for classes and all that, it just takes up all my time for preparation, as I'm sure you know, but I will get there in the next 10 days and finish them all. So you're going to present a workshop to your home language, SP or FET or both, teachers, on why they should teach writing as a process rather than as a product. So within this, you're going to design your slides, showing those 2 aspects of writing, looking at what CAP says, looking at the stages, which we're going to look at tonight, of the process writing approach. There they all are, from the pre-writing to the drafting, to the revision, to the editing, to the final publication. Then we're going to look at essay and transactional writing requirements with examples. And then we're going to look at discursive essay and a transactional writing essay and show how we can implement a process approach for those 2 forms of writing. We're also going to look at the benefits. Why would we teach writing as a process? Okay, one of the reasons why we do that is because students can become critically reflectors of their writing and edit their work themselves, and also their writing skills can develop as they write real writing, authentic writing. Challenges? It takes a long time, it takes effort, and students don't like revising their work. Then our 3 possible questions that you will ask your audience. And you're going to present this much like I'm doing now. If you're going to use the Zoom aspect, I'm just recording this PowerPoint that I'm sharing the screen with you, and Zoom automatically converts it to an MP4, and you can just upload that on, yes, you can just upload it on ECI. And then your transcripts, this could happen live if you've got a live audience, but then you'll have to put a transcript for the answers. So you're going to have to head their questions and provide a transcript for the answers. Okay, get back to me if you're not sure about anything. ECI has also got a PowerPoint that I've uploaded with all the aspects that I would look at technically. Remember, if it is a PowerPoint presentation or Prezi presentation for a group of professional people, it would have to be appropriately formatted. You'd have to look at, I've got the 7-7 rule there. I think, I'm not sure if you knew what that meant. Not more than 7 bullets. Sorry, I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've done more than that. And 7 words a bullet. That's the ideal. So that's what you should aim for. Right, so let's go right to what is a process approach and what is a product approach. I'm also referring you to see figure 11.1 in Ferreira. Go and check what she says about product and process approaches. But basically, the traditional approach that you have had in schools up to now is normally a product approach, where the teacher gives you a list of topics, you choose one, you sit and you write it by yourself, and you hand it in, often in the same period. So I'm not too sure if that's the way it's practiced in the schools where you were, or you're still doing it the same way, but this is a challenge to you to maybe change that approach and rather use a process approach in teaching writing. So if you are doing a product approach, it's all about the final submission, not about the process of how you get to the final submission, but to hand in that product. Yes, lots of comments in red on your final submission, sometimes a comment, but the problem with all this feedback is that it doesn't really help the student because they're not given a chance to resubmit. So they might get an indication of all the errors and they might be told to do corrections, but they're not actively using that information to develop their own writing. So it's really quite a waste, and I've seen that writing doesn't really improve because they're not actually processing that feedback. You focus often on language, that's the easy part, looking at the grammar, punctuation, and spelling, rather than the organization of the content, the ideas. Those things are also very, very important. You assign your mark. It's all individualistic. You can't copy. Getting feedback from somebody else is not copying, but it's all individual from the one student. It's one draft, heaven alone, not more than that. And you've got no chance to resubmit. The student comes and says, ma'am, I'm very upset about my mark. Can I resubmit? You say, no, that's your last copy. Teacher-centered, the teacher's in control. And research has shown this does not assist with the writing development of the students. Whereas the process approach follows a real writing situation scenario. This is how people write in reality. And you go through a series of stages that you're going to plan, draft, revise, edit, submit. And often it might be cyclic within that. So you might go to draft, then go back to planning, then come to revision, then go back to drafting, then come to editing, and go back to planning. So you can go in a circle. It's not just linear, going one way. There you go. There's the recursive arrow showing it's going to go round and round. That's social. Yes, it's an event when we write a piece of writing. We get everybody to read it. It's collaborative. You don't write in your own little corner with nobody looking at your work. You share your work. You share your drafts. You get feedback. You want feedback. It's recursive. You're going to go back to your planning, go back to your draft, revise, go back to planning maybe, but you've best left out something. And you write many drafts. And that's why students often don't like it, because they get tired. All right, it's quite nice if they do it on PC, because then they can cross out easily and they can delete and they can add quite nicely without rewriting the whole section. You must share the writing for feedback. So it's not only with your teacher, you can give it to a peer, colleague, mother, father, friend. And it's very much learner-centered, because you drive your own development of your writing, and you can become critical of your own writing skills, because you can see what you've left out and that you've put too many main key points in one paragraph and it's not coherent, and you're going to notice that all yourself. This is also something I found which shows quite a nice delineated way of looking at process and product. Eventually you can see that with the process you're looking at more the creative process, because you're developing your writing. Whereas in the product, you also just emphasizing the final submission. Here you go, one draft and you submit. Okay. We're going to look at the different stages one by one. They're also in Ferreira, so you can go read up on them there, right from pre-writing to the drafting to number 3, reviewing, editing, proofreading, and then sharing when you submit your document. So the first stage is that you're going to think about your topic. What genre is it going to be? Is it going to be a dialogue, narrative, comparative, email? Why am I doing this? The purpose? Who's going to read it? Who am I writing for? It's very important. What point of view am I putting forward? Then I must go and gather all my information. Where am I going to get the information from? I might look at reading lists. I might look at internet, Google. I might go to the library. I might use my own knowledge. I might go and ask a parent. I might analyze something. It might be some graphs. I might discuss it with somebody. So different ways I'm going to get information, and then I must record this information in my note-taking. We spoke about that. And give references if I use references. Then I'm going to organize it. I've got all the information now. Now I'm just going to plan it, maybe using a mind map or linear notes. Outline the paragraphs, what's going to go to each paragraph, and then I'm going to try and organize it, which will be my first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph. Again, we're going to go on with the stages. We're going to then go on to stage 4 now, and you're going to start drafting it. Drafting means I'm just going to write and write and write and write. I'm not going to worry about spelling errors. I'm not going to worry about word order. I'm not going to worry about the sequencing of my ideas, because I can fix that up later. Then I'm going to revise. So I'm going to draft first, then I'm going to revise, and then I will edit. So why am I doing all this? Because I'm drafting to get feedback from a teacher, from a peer, from a parent, from a friend, so that I can get more information on what I can do to improve my writing. I'm going to revise for organization, which would be my first point. My last point, that paragraph doesn't make much sense. What is the style? It's very choppy. I've got too many simple sentences. My sentences are too long. It doesn't really follow a narrative style. I haven't got chronological order here. So you'll fix up all of those things. And then finally, you're going to edit, which is where you're going to go look at the finer details like spelling, grammar, punctuation. Those are just the last things you look at. In your first draft, you don't even look at that. So teachers don't even comment on it because they haven't got to that point yet. Maybe on draft 4, you can start saying something about it. Here's another linear way you can look at it, right from the question analysis to brainstorming, to planning, to researching, to drafting, edit and revise. And you can see again, draft, edit, revise, draft, edit, revise. And that is enabled by feedback, which is part of the composing process. I would like to see a big feedback there as well. And then finally, you get to the final draft. There's your drafting, your editing, and your revising. And then stage 5, we're going to do our final copy at long last, after 5 drafts maybe, and submit. But with that, we need to type it out or write it out neatly using the required formatting, what the teachers told us to do. And also look to see if there are any institutional essay submission requirements, like a plagiarism declaration or a cover page. It might be required. And then we'll submit our final copy. Yes, there we go. Yes, we've done all that. I quite like this diagram because it actually shows you the whole cyclic recursive way we write from. We do our pre-writing, which is our note-taking, brainstorming, collecting our ideas, and we go into this vortex spiral of planning, drafting, reflection, and it's circular. It goes round and round and round. We might start drafting and go back to planning, and then we can come to review, and then we revise, and we go back to drafting because we go round and round. There can be up to 4 or 5 drafts, as I said, and eventually we come out of the spiral, the vortex, where we do our editing and proofreading. That's for this punctuation, the spelling, maybe a bit of grammar in there, and we finally submit it. So it's this whole big process. It's not linear and go on in a circle for quite a long time. So I'm just going to go through the stages quickly. First of all, the think part is when you're going to analyze your topic. You need to have a clear understanding of the topic before you can actually answer the question or write the essay. And spend time on this. Talk to people about it. Talk to other learners. Ask the teacher if you're not sure. And often we can do this by looking at 3 keywords that most essay topics contain. And these are your content words, your instruction words, and your limiting words in a title. What are these? Right. Your direction or instruction words are the words like assess, or analyze, or explain, or describe, or discuss, or argue. The topic words is the general focus. So for instance, let's go city and country life. The direction word might be compare city life and country life. The topic words would be country and city. Those are the 2 things you're going to look at. Limiting words might be to the area. They're going to say that you can't do it everywhere. So I might say, compare city life and country life in South Africa. Okay, so I'm limiting you to South Africa, or in the desert, or at the coast. All right, so I'm limiting you with those ideas. And then you can't go and write about Germany because it's not South Africa, so it's a limiting word. Here's 2 examples. Outline the impact of states and markets in today's globalized world economy. Outline is your instructional word. It's just an outline. It's not a detailed overview. You're going to have your content word, which is globalized world economy. It's a topic, but you're only going to look at the impact of states and markets. Those are the only things you're going to look at, states and markets on this world economy. You can't do anything else. You can't do finance, perhaps on that. Second topic is maybe more understandable. Chocolate is a healthy food. Discuss. So discuss is your instructional word. All right, you're going to discuss it. Give reasons for it. Chocolate is your content word. You can't do ice cream. You've got to do chocolate. It's all about chocolate. And you've got to talk about chocolate being a healthy food. So you can't speak about chocolate being an unhealthy food. So your whole discussion is going to give reasons why chocolate is a healthy food, because it lowers cholesterol, it gives energy, it's got protein and dairy in it, it's got calcium. What else is it good for? Gives energy. So those are things you're going to say why it is so healthy. So that is what you're going to tie it up with. So here we've got our content words again. They tell us what the topic is. Our instruction words tell us what we're going to do with those content words. We're going to discuss. We're going to compare. We're going to give examples. We're going to evaluate. We're going to analyze. Limiting words tells me my specific focus. Health, economy, Johannesburg. Okay, there are my limiting words. I'm only going to speak about VW products. All right. Or only about Nando's food, whatever you want to choose. So the focus might be a certain time period, today, a theory that you're putting forward about process approach to writing, a location in Durban, number, I want to have 2 examples, and type might be school types, secondary schooling. Okay, so those are things that would make it limited. So the example here is assess the impact of diversity training on multicultural organizations. My instruction word is assess. All right, assess the impact of. My highlighted words is diversity training for multicultural. All right, and you speak about your training, you're going to have your staff because they are diverse. And then our limiting words, it can only be in multicultural organizations. It can't be in organizations where there are maybe only one group of people working. There you go. And there's the whole sentence written out. Assess the impact is my instruction words. The content word is diversity training. And my limiting words are multicultural organizations. Quite a nice idea is to give your students a whole lot of topics and ask them to try and work out which are the content words, which are the limiting words, and which are the instruction words. You can also give them, there is a whole list of those instruction words. You can Google it if you want to find out. I can also send some of those to you. Easy now. The next part, you've got to go and get all your information, gather it, go and get your ideas off the internet, the library, reading up about it, speaking to people about it, researching them, go and finding out from people what they say about it. And then, quite nice, you put all that information into a funnel, and the work comes out at the bottom there. You can see it coming out the funnel. So that's how easy it is to write. What do you think? I don't think so. So it's taking all those ideas, synthesizing it, and the product comes out at the bottom, hopefully. Then we come to stage 3. This is not really at our drafting stage. We're still on our planning stage. We're trying to outline and organize our topic at this point. And we often do that by maybe developing a mind map, or making lists or flow charts, scribbles on paper, post-it notes to try and work out where we're going with our topic. Say, for instance, my topic is my identity. And so a good way to do that might be to look at this in terms of a mind map, and then I try and work out all the things that give me my identity. It could be my interests, my family and friends, my work and my hobbies, my practices, my habits, my values, my beliefs, my appearance, my ethnicity. So I look at all those things, and I would decide as I go on which are relevant, which aren't relevant, which can I add, what I want to give subtopics to. Just really many different ways people can plan. Mind maps might not be the way you plan. You might do more incomplete notes, or you might do more flowchart type notes, or skeleton notes, different ways we can do it. So you must try and decide. You can see these are all mind maps, ways that you would do it, and then your method is what suits you. And if that's your method, you start planning using that method. I just like mind maps, which you can actually take in and add ideas quite easily. You don't have to write long sentences, and you can see your main topics. It's up to you later on when you go drafting to go and put these together coherently. And then start revising and reviewing, going back to your plans all the time. So it's not a static type of plan, it's a dynamic one. You're going to start writing, and you can go back and say, no, I don't want to use those points, or this point really needs more development. My teacher said I've got to put some more positive thinking in, or what other emotions could I add to it? I don't think that emotion is a good one. I'm going to take it out. And so you would analyze your plan and then revise your writing all the time. Then I'm going to get on to stage 4. I'm going to actually start writing now. And what they call free writing, when I just write and write and write to get my ideas out. I don't really worry about sequencing, order, organization, spelling, grammar. I just write. It's free writing. And you should just write and write and write. Then you can take that writing, that free writing, and start organizing it later. Don't even look at spelling. Don't even look at grammar. Just get your ideas out. So here again, it is from pre-writing to publishing. We're going to look at the revising part after we've drafted, and then we'll go on to editing. So drafting doesn't have to be perfect. Just get your ideas out. Give them the time just to free write. Say to them, okay, in class today, for the next 10 minutes, you're just going to write. And it doesn't matter how it comes out. Just if the ideas are all over the place and chaotic, it doesn't matter. You're just getting your ideas out. If you're stuck, just keep on writing. If it's not relevant, we'll cross it out later. But get them into the practice of just writing freely, not worrying about grammar and spelling and punctuation. This is what happens when you start revising. You start checking your coherence. So once I've got through that free writing stage, I'm going to start putting them into paragraphs, looking at my ideas, how am I ordering them, how can I change them. Then I'll start editing later. But in the revising process, I'm often going to get feedback from someone to come and look at my work. If you have a look at the arrows on the image there, you'll see that the arrows going up and down, up and down. That means it's not static. From the editing, I can go all the way back up to the pre-writing stage. From the writing stage, I can come right down to just before the publishing stage. So it's moving all the time, it's going cycling. But editing basically means you're going to look at your sentences. Are they coherent? Do they make sense? Are they linking words? Is that the correct word? Is that not the correct word that I'm using? The final stage, just before you submit, before you publish, it's the spelling, grammar, and punctuation stage. So it really shouldn't come in before that last stage when you're editing. I quite like these two acronyms for revise and edit. The ARMS for revise, which spells down again there, ARMS. A is for adding sentences and words. R is for removing sentences and words. M is for moving a sentence or word placement in your sentence. And the S is for substituting words. Let's have better words. Let's use other sentences. So that's what all revision is all about. The editing is the CUPS. The C is for capitalization, checking that. Then we're looking at U, looking at our nouns and verbs. Do they match correctly? Am I using them correctly? P is for punctuation forms, and S is for spelling. Okay. I would say the P and the S is more coming into proofreading, but they could all go under editing together. But that's one way for me to remember what I should look for if I'm editing. I must remember CUPS. I'm going to look at a bit of feedback theory on writing, because in all of this, we haven't actually mentioned the word feedback, as feedback is implicit in all of this. Because theory, a lot of research has gone into writing practices, and they've looked at feedback quite a lot. And Gaskell is right back in 1987, and we in 2020 now says feedback is an essential component of virtually every attempt to construct a model of the writing process. Without feedback in those stages, you haven't got a writing process. So if you're not giving your students feedback in the process of writing, it's not actually a process approach. You have got to give that feedback. And most teachers just don't have the time, unfortunately. But it could be something that you give them verbally, conferencing with them in the class, speaking about their ideas. Key, who's a great theorist on writing practices, in 1990 said feedback is a fundamental element in all stages of the writing process. So right from the planning, right to the publications part of those stages, you need feedback from teachers, peers, anyone. It's a social activity. You're not writing your little corner. We're all writing together. We're giving each other feedback. And from feedback, research has shown, Zamal, also a great theorist on practices, says that learners get a positive attitude towards written work with feedback, if you give them feedback, and they can improve their work. Interestingly, many theorists have said that if you have limited application of process activities, you're not giving opportunities for planning, for drafting, for revising, for editing. And they say especially draft, revision, and feedback. This will affect the quality of student writing. So if you're letting them do a product approach in your classes with not active planning, not draft revision, not feedback, just don't expect their writing to improve. They're going to just keep on writing badly because they're not going to know why they've done it all wrongly. So remember, you don't limit them by not allowing this within the classroom. Again, here's a nice way to think about feedback and how we should do it, and it's the tag method. So first of all, when I'm giving you feedback, I should give you a compliment. I really like the text you selected for your assignment 1. Okay. Be specific, refer to the text. I really liked your text on gender-based violence. It was so relevant and topical. So there's your compliment. So here's your example. You did a great job using transition words. You use first, next, and last to tell the story, the order of your story. So you're giving them a compliment on their transitional devices. Then you can ask them a question, but it must relate to what they were writing about. Example, you wrote about how you would buy a house if you won $1,000. Where would you want your house to be? Okay, so that's some information they can perhaps add to what they're writing about. Then give them something to work on. This is some recommendations, something that they can improve. Be specific, refer to the text. For example, next time make sure you read over your sentences. I noticed some of the sentences did not make sense. That's again a grammar. I don't really like grammar type comments. So you could say, your recommendations, I see you only gave one reason or one suggestion. I think you should try and give another suggestion so they can add to the content. Here's some more on feedback research. What happens with feedback, however, it's often not useful because students can't understand what we've written, so they don't know how to fix up. It's vague and abstract as teachers, and they find it difficult to interpret. All those lovely things you write about, the students don't know what to do about it. Okay, they know there's something wrong, but they've got no strategies to fix it up. I don't know if you remember in the writing practices that when you write errors, I gave you 1, 2, or 3, or 4. You give them a 1, 2, 3, or 4 next to the error. Then you've got a whole list of what those rules mean, and they can go and try and unpack it and speak to you about it. So maybe that's one way to get around this. So it's they've got to crack your codes, and they might not understand what you mean when you say, this is a Concord error. Okay, so they've got no idea what you're speaking about. So they should be able to understand what you're saying in the language that you use. Often, if you just see it as an assessment activity rather than a process, they're not going to make use of your feedback because they're not going to get a chance to revise their work. And this is what Charles in 1990 said, comments should give students control over the feedback they receive. So the way you state your comment, they can go back and process and fix up. So your comment should be written in such a way that they can understand it and process what you are saying. Now, how can we do this? We can do this by being interactive with them, speak to them about it conversationally, and non-directive, not forcing them to do it. They are in control of their own work. We're not going to say, you must do this. We can suggest it in the way we say it, in our tone. Don't you think you'd like to do this? What about trying that? So in that way, we can make it less authoritarian. So again, there's our tag. Tell them something nice, ask a question, give a suggestion. Those are not being directive. Conferencing, talking to them about it, using dialogue, chatting to them about it. This is a counseling technique if you're going to see a psychologist, and it builds self-esteem, gives them reassurance, confidence. So speak to them nicely, ask them for information. I really like the way you are writing this essay. Your coherence is great. Those, I can see the reasons following, but I see you haven't given any information on the health aspect here. What about that? Appreciate what they are doing, that they're trying to put it into paragraphs. Use acceptance and approval words. It's really coming on nice. She's got great potential. Your teachers of English, you can use those words. Tell them that the ideas are not strange. Say to them they are interesting ideas and they must pursue them. So allow them to develop their thinking and their ideas. Find out from them what they thought the requirements were. So if they write about country life in Germany and you said South Africa, you can go and say to them, why did you think it was South Germany and not South Africa? For what reason did you do this? All right, so you can chat to them about that. And let them learn to understand the way you write, the mind of the lecturer, the teacher, so they can bridge the understanding gap, so they can understand how they should answer these questions. So you could actually go over the way you're giving feedback so they can understand it. So after you've marked a batch of work, you can go and give them feedback about what the issues were and how they could fix it up. And then they become self-confident and their esteem goes up. So how do we write the feedback? These are strategies we can. Our comments must be specific to the problems. Give reasons, explain the reasons why we think it is a problem. All right. The sentence, each of your sentences here are simple sentences. They're all very short. They've all got 10 words in this, 10 and 8. I suggest you combine sentence 1 and 2 to make it flow more and give it some compound, and that'll improve your choppy style. Make suggestions how they can fix it up. What about these words? You've used this word. Have you thought about these words? And you give them about 4 or 5 other words. Let them consider it. Interact with them. Speak to them. Connect with them. Respond to content, not to the grammar and the spelling. Respond to what they're writing about, okay, and to the meaning. Does it make sense? Say if something doesn't make sense, I'm not too sure why you used that. The sentence is incomplete, so I'm not too sure why you've put it there. How can we fix it up? If things are really inappropriately grammatically, I would leave it right till the end, just before final submission and publication when we're in the editing stage, and then you can really speak about lack of concord, or they've used the incorrect pronouns or prepositions and things like that. How do you feel about something like this? Okay, here's a teacher with a red pen, famous red pen, has gone and corrected all the work for the students. You can see it's which and there and techniques and therefore, and everything's circled and changed. Is this really helping a student develop writing? Rather, teacher could say, look, there are a number of spelling errors. I suggest you go through and you check that. what word would you use instead of state of the art, all right? Or warfare. Think of another word. I mean, so you would give them so that you're not doing it for them. Otherwise, it's again like copying. There, it's mindless, not mindful. If this kind of feedback, we don't want that. Don't do the corrections for them. Feedback packaging. The way we write, it shouldn't be overwhelming. Millions of comments all around. Be respectful of how we write in the white space. Not over their writing. Avoid using a red pen where possible, please. I told you pencil, blue, as long as you can see it. That's why I like pinks or purples and other colors. Always have a summative comment at the end, because that's the first thing they read. Okay, they don't read the little comments in between, they only go to those later. So give what you really like, the strengths of what they've written, and then suggest the possible weaknesses. Give praise first, and I'm speaking to myself. I must start thinking about these things when I give lots and lots of feedback, and then the problem areas. Use full sentences, because this is your model for them. So if you're just using abbreviated short sentences, they might not know what you're saying, but you're not modeling proper sentence structure or question structure for them. Don't use abbreviations, SPs for spelling, because they might not understand unless you've got a glossary for all your abbreviations. Include questions. Please make sure, have you thought about using the past tense for the report? And notice that in paragraph 2, you've just used the present tense. One word comments are not helpful. And I can see I'm speaking to myself. I said, why? I mean, I was marking assignment 1 because I couldn't understand why you were doing what you were doing, but I should say, why did you include this? Because, okay, so I can give you some more reasons. You can understand why I'm saying why. Again, all my comments are useless unless you're sending me drafts like some of you do, and I can give you feedback so you can improve on your writing. Yes, not only a paragraph burger, we've got a feedback burger with positive feedback as a top bun and the bottom bun, and we've got our critical or constructive feedback in between. So remember to couch what you're saying, positive things with constructive. Even if you say, I like the way you type, okay? To make something positive to build up confidence in your students. Here is blue. As you can see, it doesn't look quite as bad as red when they are making comments. Check out the red at the bottom there. But however, I failed to understand that it says it's positive feedback, but I can't actually see why it is positive. It just seems to be underlining stuff with some R's there. G's, maybe, I'm not too sure, it's not even tense. Have you ever used slang? Anyway, but make sure that can crack your codes to understand what you're trying to say. Here's another one with a lot of writing all over the place. I would feel quite depressed if I got this. It's in the margins somewhere and in the writing other places, lots of question marks. As you can see, there we go, all those question marks, not sure what that means. This is copied. If you read through this, imagine a student trying to go over this and trying to rework it. If this is a final draft, they're just going to do nothing about it because they've got their markings over and out. All right, so you've got to think about the process within the feedback so they can change. This is quite interesting. It's a checklist that you could use right at the end. It's grammar, basically, and then you give them a chance, pupil on the left, to give a tick, and then you can comment on the side. And the first question is, have I written in the first person, I, me, etc.? The pupil says yes, and the teacher will tick on the other side. Have I used capital letters and full stops consistently? And the student says yes, and the teacher says not always consistently. Have I used figurative language? And there they all are, and it says half some of the time, and the teacher says you've used mainly adjectives. So this is one way, and I like the way the teachers use green, and you could actually submit this with it. So if you've got on your rubric a grammar section and you give them 5 out of 10 and they've got this little checklist, they'll know exactly why they've actually got that mark. I have varied my sentence openers, and he says yes, the teacher says yes, you have, and that's also going to build their esteem. Right, so learner perceptions of feedback. This is from my own research. And most of it was quite positive, that I give quite a lot of feedback and I use a process approach to writing, especially this was during working with engineers, writing reports. And most of them said they were encouraged, that they now enjoy writing and that their writing improved. Yes, so that was positive. One student said, the more you write, the more your writing skills improve. Yes, they do. I can elaborate more, my report improved, my marks showed my effort. I'm rectifying my mistakes on my own now. What a wonderful revelation. More drafts, more improvement. However, some did not hand in drafts and did not ask for help. And this is the reason why they said they did not improve. Okay, they should have handed their drafts in for help. So this thing, you always get the negative parts of my research showed me that some students still say would not have improved even if I had given my work in for feedback. Nothing improved. Rectify mistakes on my own and nothing improves. So you always have this section of your research might show that some students just don't like feedback. All right, but I think the majority and research generally shows that feedback improves student writing. So we're coming to the final stage now. Stage 5, the final copy and your submission. Yes, and this is when you're also handing in your assignments. That must be neatly typed and professionally formatted. Look at your spacing, look at your words, look at your font. Because this creates a favorable impression on readers. Yes, if I've got something I can read, it's legible, it's well put out, I'm in a favorable mindset, okay, with this. I'm mindful because I like to mark something that is favorably formatted professionally for me. It shows me that the student put time and effort into their work. They didn't throw it together at the last minute, all right? So please, those things are important. It's often going to raise your marks somewhat. Yes, marks may be lost for untidy and sloppy presentation. I have a mark for presentation and formatting, so you do get a mark for that. If you want to type, which is preferable, obviously, nowadays we type everything, students may not. If your typing is accurate and use double spacing, check your spacing between words, paragraphing. Same goes for writing. It must be neat and legible. Length, always check the number of words. If the essay is too short, you're going to lack some development and detail. If your assignment's only one page and it's got quite a few, then possibly you've left out a few things. So the length limit is an indication of the detail required. So do not exceed that. If someone says 1,500 words, try and keep to that, because that's how you're gonna. That's all you need to do. So that is the maximum set for the essay. And check to see if you need to put a cover page, a reference list, a plagiarism declaration, and everything else. So always check the instructions from your teachers. And then you can submit. Here's my conclusion. This is from Ferris again, and I really rate Ferris as a theoretical writing researcher. And she says, if you give your learners unlimited opportunities, that means you allow them to draft and draft and draft, their writing will improve and their marks. And they will pay greater attention to your comments. So if you're giving them feedback and you're allowing them to redraft, they will start paying attention to what you're saying in your comments. Because they are given the opportunity to continue working on them. So that's why the whole idea of first draft, final copy is so bad, because that feedback is not going to allow your students to go and revise what they've written. But if you give them, you can say to them, you've got 5 opportunities to write this, and you give them feedback on each time, or 2 opportunities, and you'll get feedback. They will pay attention to what you are saying, because their marks will improve. Let me tell you something nice. It will be nicer to mark them as well. And they will continue working on their work. And you'll see they will come to you and ask you for feedback. Don't give it to them on their final draft. It's going to be meaningless. They've got to get feedback on their preliminary drafts, those first drafts. That's where they're developing their writing. So teachers, I spoke about advantages and disadvantages, benefits and disadvantages of using a process approach. Yes, one of the challenges is it's going to be a bit more work, because you're going to have to give feedback. But as I said, this can also be interactive, conferencing, dialoguing with your student. You can walk around the class and say, look, you have to check that paragraph. There are issues here. I can't understand what you're writing. So it can be a type of conferencing type. You can also, if you've got means to give them, I know on Turnitin, you can give them a speech one. You can speak it. But it does take time, and the students will also find that it takes time to keep on fixing up their drafts, but they will soon see that it's going to be meaningful and the quality of their writing is going to improve and their attitude towards writing. I quite like this little quotation from Leah Wilson in Education Week Teacher. She says, good feedback, yes, stimulates thought about writing and inspires improvements, whereas a final grade, just giving that final mark, often has a stultifying effect. Even if the grade is high, a letter or number grade evaluates the product but does not teach. So if you're just giving grades, you're not teaching anything. You have to give feedback, thoughtful and good feedback, mindful feedback, and this is going to improve the student writing. Right, so what I want you to do, your little mentally little chore this week, as well as your on-track quiz you're going to have, is to go to Ferreira and look at table 11.1, page 155 to 156, or 155, I think it is. Complete the questionnaire. It's a yes, no. It's about, I'm not too sure, about 30 questions, yes, no. And from that, you'll see this little table at the bottom, and this will identify the kind of writing approach you experienced at school. So you're going to go through the table and say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And at the end of that, I'll tell you how you can work out. And then I want you to go to menti.com. There's your code 7149534. And then indicate which writing approach you experienced at school. Okay, then we can have a look at this next week to see. And I'm sure most of you did not, unless you were in amazing schools, did not come from a writing approach which was more process. I'm sure most of you came from a product teaching writing environment. And that's what I'm seeing in the schools at the moment. So let's see, maybe I'm totally wrong, and I'll be so thrilled if all of you come from a certain way of writing. Okay, so that's it. Yes, you should all love writing. Hopefully your classes all love writing, because you are using a process approach. You're using pre-writing, drafting, rewriting, editing, and proofreading with lots of feedback in your classroom before they publish. And your students also know that feedback helps writers, and they will want you to write and give them feedback on their writing. So that's it for tonight. It's a short and sweet one. Keep working on assignment 2s. Use this information. Check out chapter 11 from Ferreira. There's quite a lot of information. And then next week, we'll look at the different genres of writing. So it's going to be a Zoom presentation next week. So be sure to tune in, and I'll see you there live. Okay. Have a nice evening. Bye for now.